Hello, everyone. I, of course, am Christine Gritmon, and this is Let's Talk About Brand. I do this show every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, where I interview smart guests about specific topics related to branding. This is also a companion to my Tuesday Twitter chat about brand. Every week on Tuesday, we're on Twitter at 12 noon Eastern Time, talking about the same topic as I'm going to talk with my guest about on the Friday live interview show. This show is live right now on multiple channels. We are live on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. And I was supposed to be doing this show live on Amazon as well. Haven't quite gotten it to work. So I'm actually going to talk to our guest about that just a little bit, pick his brain a bit. But our guest, Chris Stone, has gone live on multiple channels as well. And today we're going to be talking about branding with Amazon, how to leverage one of the largest websites in the world to build your personal brand. Before we bring him on, I just wanted to very quickly give a shout out to my fabulous Patreon members. Yes, there is a community around Chat About Brand and Let's Talk About Brand. And I am very grateful to my patrons, Emma Pirchu, Bonnie Wilson, Suzanne Brown, Amanda Hahn-Peters, and Maiko Sakai. And you can check out how to join us in utilizing each week's lessons to build our own personal brands at my Patreon link. I am live with RESTREAM. You can also check that out at the end as well. All right, without any further ado, I'm going to bring on Chris Stone. He's done all sorts of great stuff, and he'll tell us all about it. But what we're really here to talk about today is his work with live streaming, specifically on Amazon Live, where he co-hosts a show called Dealcasters Live with our mutual friend Jim Fuse. All right, without any further ado, here is Chris. Hello, Chris. How are you today?
Hey, Christine, I didn't sleep all night. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I tried to get some red curtains back here, but I mean, I'm doing my best. I got as red as I could.
You got to be on brand for you, man, not for me. It's all
Right,
good.
right. Well, that is my brand. I like to kind of, it's show of respect for what
flex.
is your brand is kind
You
of
can
like,
flex.
add a
I
little red
understand that
into the
completely.
mix.
When my friends Amy and Caitlin were on my old show, they're from Simply Social Media in New Mexico, and their color is bright green. So I made sure to wear bright green for their show.
There you go, red and green. A little time for the holidays
And
too,
today
right?
I shopped on Amazon in your honor,
Well, did you hit one of our links? So we got your cookies. So we got our 12 cents for whatever you bought.
Nice. That's always good. So let's dive right in. We found out on my chat on Tuesday, Chat About Brand, that so many people aren't even aware of the things that they can do on Amazon. And let's make it really clear right out of the gate. We're not talking about like, I have a book to sell, so I'm selling it on Amazon. We're not talking about a bunch of electronics fell off a truck and I'm selling them on Amazon. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about Amazon influencers, which you are. So can you run through just a little bit the basics about what the heck that is and why someone would want to get involved in that?
Yeah, of course. I think we should cover that really quickly because inevitably, whenever I get on a show or I get on a Twitter chat or something like that, everybody is like, wait, what? And then you got to go through that whole thing and talk about the process. It's actually not that long of a process, but Jim Fuse and I, who do Dealcasters on Amazon and all the other tubes as well, we created a video and it kind of walks you through the steps of how to become an Amazon influencer. And it's on YouTube, but you can get directly to it by going to dealcasters.university. And so we'll talk about top level domains as a part of your brand too, because I think that's interesting for creators and the creator economy and sort of controlling, where you're porting your traffic. But Amazon started doing this a couple years ago. They opened up this to the Amazon and called it an Amazon influencer program. They've always had live streaming and live shopping, much like QVC or the Home Shopping Network online, obviously on Amazon. And they had their own sort of influencers, people that they brought in to do that for them. But they started a couple years ago saying, hey, we're going to open this up and try to get people over from originally Twitter. Now Twitter is not a way for you to get qualified as an Amazon influencer, but Instagram, certainly Facebook business, and YouTube. Of course. And so there's a qualification process. They don't tell you how many subscribers or how many followers you need in order to do that. And they kind of move those goalposts. But I think generally, if you've got a decent following, maybe 2,000 or more on some of those platforms, you may, in some ways, our friend Madeline Sklar and Cami Hoysel and some of these others, they didn't even know it, but they were already approved as Amazon influencers. So you might want to go in and check if you're already approved as an Amazon influencer. And what that allows you to do is it gives you a shop page that you can brand for yourself, and you can curate products that are sold on Amazon and create shoppable videos for products that you like. And those videos show up on product pages and shoppable photos. And then you can go live and be able to talk to people who are shopping. You become the expert for those particular products in that particular niche. And of course, anytime somebody ends up purchasing anything within 24 hours after they see your video, watch your stuff, or whatever, you'll get a commission based on the Amazon Associates program.
Now, that's really interesting. As you mentioned, you can brand your shop, and I imagine you would brand it to yourself, but you're selling other people's products generally, right? So kind of how does that reconcile in there? How can you use other people's products to build your own brand and kind of have your own shop going on?
Sure. And I think when Jim and I started Dealcasters, Dealcasters did not exist until we went live on Amazon. And Jim called me and said, "Hey, we're approved as Amazon influencers. We're going to do our show." And so in a couple hours, we came up with the name, we came up with the logo, we came up with the font, all the stuff that most people kind of consider brand, right? But it's much more than that. But in our collective businesses, we were always working with keynote speakers, authority leaders, podcasters, live streamers, and inevitably it always ended up the conversation on tech. And people get stuck, right, Christine? I mean, they're constantly like, what camera should I buy? How do I do this? What's the do I need an interface? What's a USB? What's an XLR? And so we were constantly having these peppering conversations, and we're like, this is a way for us to create a show, create social proof for our businesses, for me, Cast Ahead, and for Jim, Fusion Marketing, and be able to say, hey, listen, everyone, we kind of know a little bit to be dangerous on all this stuff, so we can talk about helping you set up a podcast, bring on people that are in the space like Neil Schaefer or Ron Carr or Mike Alton on how to write a blog, because we're not blog experts, but why not bring him on and he could talk about the stuff that he uses day to day, whether it's a teleprompter or a DSLR camera or a switcher or all of those things we end up talking about on the show. We put it in the carousel and people are like, oh, cool, that's how I do that. And so we're demonstrating, we're training, and we're consulting on our show itself, as well as interviewing people that are doing the same. So we don't look at it as, hey, we're not Shure microphones.
Yeah.
We look at it as like, we really like this microphone, you should buy it.
We have a question from Vanessa. That's a very good one, which is, what if you offer a service and not a product? And that's a good question, especially since that describes me as well.
Right.
And then also, I mean, Jim Fuse, he's a marketing guy. So what?
Right.
How can you use it to build your brand as an authority if you offer a service, not a product?
Vanessa, that's an excellent question. And I think a lot of people, when they get approved as Amazon influencers, they automatically think they have to do something different. And it's not. Your brand is more than just a font. Your brand is more than just, your brand is what you deliver to your clients, to your customers, to your viewers, and to your listeners. The first thing they think of when they see you. And of course, I'm a podcast consultant, audio creator, video creator. I do a lot of editing. I do a lot of helping people look and sound really good. And so those are my services. People pay me money to do that in my business and what I do for Cast Ahead. So what better way to show what you do than do it and create your own show and create and do the things on your particular show that you would be instructing other people on how to do. That's how you get to know, like, and trust. If nobody knows who you are, but you can check that box because you're going live in the biggest mall in the world. And, they're going to like you because you're going to help them purchase something. And then they're going to trust you. They're going to follow you. They're going to come back and they're going to get a reminder and they're going to come back and watch your show and your services. If they need them and they decide that they want them, they're going to follow you on all these other platforms and you're going to be able to have more clients than you know what to do with.
I love that. And it really couldn't be easier. I mean, you apply, you get approved, you add things that you're using and loving already. Have you run into one thing that, of course, comes up whenever anyone's talking about influencers, especially if they get a kickback from promoting a product, is figuring out where that ethical line is. So I'm sure various Amazon sellers have drawn that line in dramatically different places, as they have on every platform. Where have you and Jim drawn it for yourselves?
Yeah, when we started this thing, we didn't expect much, to be honest, Christine. We didn't expect to make, and we're not stacking Benjamins back here. We don't have like tons and tons but we never expected it to be, not just somewhat financially successful for us, but successful for us in impact and everything else. And I think, it's we look at it as a gift. It's not something that that's lost on us. And so I think it's that mindset when we're developing what we do, that we're trying to help these. At any given moment, Amazon could flip the switch and say we're done with this program. And so as content creators, and what Jim and I are doing, what we're helping other creators do, is you have to make sure you have land that you own, and that could be your website, that could be something that you have that you can drive people to. And we're utilizing Amazon, and we should be utilizing a whole bunch of different platforms to be able to drive that impact. But if for whatever reason Amazon tomorrow says, we're no longer doing this, we're building things off of that platform to continue what we do. I'm not sure if that answered your question or not, Christine. but yeah, I mean, the other thing too is that I'm sorry.
I kind of did a little bit.
Okay, all right. Jim and I wouldn't do this if it wasn't fun. We have a lot of fun. We get along really well. We've worked together on a number of business for doing remote production at events, and I just think if you're not having fun, don't do it. Nobody wants to hear a podcast from someone who just doesn't want to do it. And so, a lot of people are always like, man, you got to be consistent. You got to be, listen, consistency, I totally believe in, but stop being consistent on something you don't love to do. And so, this became an opportunity for us to say, okay, let's have some fun with this and let's see where this goes and take some shots, and we get to do some fun stuff and talk to some fun people and do pattern interrupts, as a video editor, and really, sort of roll up our sleeves and have a little fun. But I think let me get back to your question. I remembered I kind of went off this. This is what you get when you get me on your show, Christine.
The line of what you promote.
The ethical line. Thank you. And so, yes, we get approached by brands. And so, what Jim and I decided early on is that we're not going to say something is awesome if we really don't believe it. And it's hard for us to turn down. We turn down more brands than we accept, because well, first of all, if I haven't heard of these products, I'm happy to find out if I really like them or not.
Yeah, check it
So
out.
send them to me, right? And some of these brands will be like, well, we'll give you a discount on it. Well, listen,
No.
I mean, I'm not buying it. I mean,
I get
it's like,
that in
if
my
you want
Instagram inbox every day.
Right?
They say, hey, we think you'd be a great influencer for our brand. We'll give you free shipping. I'm like, come on, man.
I mean, one of the first and earliest brands that we worked with is Name.com. And the reason why we work with Name.com is before we even had a conversation with them, Jim and I knew that we had to get what's called a .live domain. So you can go to dealcasters.live and it takes you right there. And the reason why is because...
do that? Why not just send people to your Amazon? What are the advantages of a domain that's at .live?
Ask any Amazon influencer what their Amazon page is, and you'll get lost at the slash.
This
You
is true.
can't show up in a social audio platform like Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces and say, oh, you can catch our latest show on Amazon.com/shop/dealcasters. All of it's like no one's listening, right? And so it becomes a part of your brand. And I think, if you can just say, or you can just print something that says your brand.live, and if you have a live show or your part of your brand is the word live, if you don't have a .live, I mean, that's your secret weapon. It
Yeah.
gets you found, you get tons of SEO, and you just are able to just go, it's .live. It's much more cooler than .com. I mean, we're not
Yes.
commerce. That's what a .com is. It's like, oh, I'm commerce. No, we're a live show, so let's call it .live. And if you want to get to our shop, it's dealcasters.shop. If you want to contact us, it's dealcasters.contact. It's like all of those things we went and bought. They're $2, and then we just redirect it to these other things. It's really easy to do. And the reason why we work with name.com is they called us and they were like, hey, we really like what you guys are doing with .live. Can you help us talk about it? And we're like, yeah, because we really love it. So let's have a conversation with you, quote unquote brand, and start working together on that. But I think it's really just about making that decision of, oh, is this just about getting free stuff and getting a little pocket change here and there, and potentially working against your brand? Oh, we're on the same square, or we're the same
Oh, we
circle over here. I
shouldn't
like
be.
that. I like
Not sure
that.
what's happening there.
It's much more cozy on this side anyway. It's the room is much more cozy
Having
on
some
this side.
weird stuff going on today, some technical difficulties.
But I think that's the struggle with content creators. For a lot of content creators, is like, you're getting approached by all these people, and where's the value? The value for you is like they're coming to you, and so you need to know your worth, and you need to charge for your services. There's not a if everybody's just taking free oven mitts and talking about whatever, I mean, it's just going to water everything down, and including the most valuable thing that you have control over. And so, working with other brands, especially in an e-commerce situation or a platform that you're selling, you have to really think it through. It's a bit of a long game. It's exciting because you get to talk, you get boxes and boxes of stuff all over the place. That's very exciting. But I want to be able. It's bigger than that for me. It's something that the business that I'm in, the business that Jim's in, Christine, the business that you're in. You have to be sensitive to that, because if people are going to follow you up a hill, you're going to have to lead them. And if you're leading them into mistakes, they're not going to follow you anymore. And so that's really what we think about all the time when we're talking about to brands.
I love that. That's so well put. And it really is just kind of a treatise on the topic of influence in general, which is, you want to make sure that you are, deserving that trust and continuing to earn it every day with your audience. I want to remind our live viewers that you can ask questions. So please do bring those in. We had some questions from the Tuesday Twitter chat. The last
We
question
did.
of the chat is always questions for the guest. So, Wholesome Media, Jeremy wants to know, what is his favorite newsletter that he subscribes to and why?
Oh, that's easy. You know, it's Pod News. It's Pod News with James Cridland, who's based in Australia. Podnews.net. And so for me, I need relevant and timely information related to the podcast industry, or like what I like to call the audio creation industry. Because it's audio creation, we shouldn't be tied to a device. But anyway, that's gonna take a long time to wash that out. But Pod News is great because it is a very well curated email newsletter that gives me exactly what I need. It's like here's the news of the day. Here's what's happening in the podcast industry. Here's some nerdy stuff that are related to RSS feeds, that you may be able to implement on your own podcast, or potentially podcasts that you're working with as clients, and like job resources, events, conferences, and the like. Every day there's something in there that I find valuable, and I think for me that's really what an email newsletter does. From if I'm going to continue to subscribe and not just hit delete before I even read it, it's got to provide that value. And one of the values for me is I want to be able to be done with it in about 10 minutes. And if I'm with it longer than 10 minutes, it's because I'm utilizing it and I'm using it and I'm implementing whatever is in that email newsletter. It's really hard sometimes to get an email newsletter and it just feels like that person is just, checking the box. I've got an email newsletter and it really kind of feels like they just hammered something out for the sake of hammering it out, sort of like what we said before when it comes to a podcast or doing a podcast just because they want to be consistent. I think the same applies to a lot of different content. Email newsletters is certainly one of them.
Absolutely. So they have to care and they have to give you something to work with. Love that.
Yes.
This is something that I meant to cover also with the branding thing, just to go back to your Amazon shop for a moment. In addition to, of course, branding with reputation, branding with know, like, and trust, all of that, which comes from genuine, high quality recommendations, there's additional ways to use Amazon to brand yourself that you have certainly done to fantastic effect. You can brand your shop, you can brand your channel, you can brand your streams, all of that. So I'd love to hear about all that you have done to make sure that that you and Jim are not just another set of heads talking about products on Amazon, but to make sure that people know and like and trust Dealcasters specifically. How have you branded?
Yeah. So, like I said before, we came up with with Dealcasters and then launched it on Amazon. So a lot of people that are Amazon influencers, it was the other way around. They had a brand somewhere, and that now they're porting it over. And so there's a little bit of a rub where people are just kind of like, what do I do, type of deal. But I think a lot of people have done some really creative things, and so. There's a Artist at Heart is her channel on Amazon. Her name is Denise. This is just one example of something. I'll give you another one as well, which is Christina Nietzsche, who's a fitness instructor. Well, Denise has a show called Artist at Heart, and she teaches people how to paint, how to illustrate, and so that's her business. And so she goes live on Amazon, and what she does is she'll get to the end of the show and show you how to create a certain type of painting, whether it's with pens or paints or whatever. And while she's doing it, people show up and they will paint with her, and they will see, well, I don't have this item, and so she's getting people to purchase while she's showing them how to do something. And it's a really great creative way to do that. And when Christina Nietzsche, who's a fitness instructor, like, she goes live and she's like, today we're working on back and biceps, and so she does a whole thing, and she's got her dogs in there, and she's created this great brand. But that was always her brand. And so, like I said, with Dealcasters, we created that brand. We wanted to look like we belonged, and we wanted to create that social proof as podcast consultants, as live streamers, that hey, we can create a show that looks like this. You probably, if you wanted a show that looks like this, you can contact us, and we'll help you do that as a part of our business. So it was important for us to look like we belonged. We knew that we had content that would be great and useful, but we wanted to show up and be like, wow, I want to know how these guys did this. How what is that how did you do that? What's the and so that's what we end up doing. We end up having conversations with people on how those things are done, and those things inevitably mean you have to purchase them in some way, shape, or form. And we're not telling anybody to purchase something that is more expensive or something that they don't need. We've told people to buy $40 microphones, because that's going to be the best thing for them. It really just depends. You don't need to buy a $400 mic.
How do you get people to your Amazon Live? Like, how do you get viewership? Because I know people aren't generally scrolling through Amazon looking for live streams. So how do they find you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So besides, what we do is a flywheel of content. We repurpose the snot out of this thing, and in pre-promotion, we'll do that if we have, a big name like Christine Gritmon on the show. We will do as much as we can to pre-promote that. The show in itself is what really drives the traffic. So sort of back into the weeds a little bit, if you're not familiar with how Amazon Live works, when you go live, and let's just say I've got this Shure MV7 microphone that's in my carousel while I'm talking, or I'm demonstrating something, or I'm interviewing somebody, I've got my microphone here and I highlight it. The show itself, your live stream, shows up on that product page. So imagine, you walk into a large big box store and you're looking for a dishwasher. And you walk into the dishwasher section, and right next to the dishwasher you were thinking about is somebody demonstrating it. And you can ask them questions. Well, why does that cycle work? And how does that? And that's what this is, except on a massive, massive scale digitally. And so that's really what drives the traffic. And so when you go live on Amazon and you're talking about a product, sometimes you're going to be seeing like, a triple digit concurrent views. You'll get to the end of your live stream and you'll see thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of views. Now, a lot of them are not like hanging out, listening to the podcast interview. Some are, but some of them came over because somehow it tripped an algorithm that pulled them over from looking at a blender, and so they'll pop on and they'll be like, why am I here? Right? They're gone. It's okay. We probably didn't want them anyway, but if they go and buy something, without clicking on somebody else's show, you get the commission from it as well. So it's sometimes that's enough to fill your gas tank at the end of the month. So
I love how you mentioned that you guys launched this brand on Amazon Live. So this actually pulls together a couple questions, and this will be, I think, our final question. Tim Lewis happened to ask on Tuesday, what's it like working with a superstar like Jim Fuse? And we certainly love Jim here. And I'm going to actually link it to Vanessa's question about how to get started and how to get approved as an influencer and get started doing all of this. So, you guys, did you come up on Amazon Live together? Did you join it together at the same time? Did one of you bring the other one in on it? And how did you, how did you come to Amazon being the thing that you were going to put your joint effort on together?
Yeah, well, Tim Lewis knows that working with Jim Fuse is truly just a dream. Every day I wake up and pinch myself and thank God for Jim Fuse. No, seriously, he is a fantastic human, for sure. And we were just looking for really an opportunity for us to do a show together and not just some whatever random show. And Jim watched a video from our friend Ross Brand on how to become an Amazon influencer, and of course, because Jim is such a rock star and he has more Twitter followers than Kim Kardashian, he watched that video. And at the time, Twitter was a way for you to get approved. It's off the table now. Like, again, Amazon moves goalposts on you, and you just got to get used to that. This is a new program. You can complain all you want, but if you want to be in, you're going to have to follow some rules, I guess. And so they took Twitter off the table, but Jim was approved as an influencer for Twitter. And so he calls me up and he says, I watched Ross Brand's video and now we're influencers. And that was the conversation. 2 hours later, we had a logo. We started building out the show. We started calling people to be guests. And that's really, how it took off. Jim and I work really well together. We're the type of people that when something gets launched, when something is new, we like to just kind of pull it apart and put it back together again and kind of figure out how we can implement it either in our own businesses, for Dealcasters, or for the clients that we work for. It's really just, that people toss around the word expert. And I don't love it because I feel like, to be an Amazon expert is the only way you can really be that is to work for Amazon. And we don't, it's a lot of detective work, honestly. It's a lot of trying to figure out how these platforms work. And, I heard this, like this person's a LinkedIn expert. Well, this person spends a lot of time studying LinkedIn. Let's make it clear, right? I mean, if you work for LinkedIn, you're an expert, but if you don't, there's some tea leaf reading going on. And so you just got to do your best with what you're given as a content creator, and try to take as much information from people like yourself, Christine, to just kind of like drive your brand, and try to become your own expert, really.
Love that. So, Chris, besides dealcasters.live, where can and should people find you?
Oh, well, they can find me at chrisstone.contact. So that's just really a redirect that we made, and that will get you to all the tubes that I'm on. So if you're a LinkedIn person, that's got my LinkedIn on there. If you want to connect on Facebook, you want to connect on Twitter, all of that stuff, it's chrisstone.contact. If you want to check out Dealcasters, you can go to dealcasters.live or .contact or .shop. And you'll get to those three different things as well. We try to make that as easy as possible using those top level domains to have people find us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If
Yeah.
you can actually hang out in the green room for a second, I need your
Yeah, of
help
course.
getting myself on Amazon.
Okay.
And also, we will put in the comments later a link for how you can apply to Amazon's influencer program, because I know people are always looking for that. So again, I am Christine Gritmon. I do this show every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and hopefully Amazon Live. And I also have a companion Twitter chat every single Tuesday at noon on Tuesday. And so next Tuesday's topic is going to be branding through a pivot. This is something a lot of people had to do 2020, 2021, the whole pandemic situation. Lots of people are really reassessing where they're at and what they want to be doing. And managing your personal brand through that can be actually your greatest asset towards getting where you're trying to go. Next Friday, we're going to be discussing that with a special guest, Cass McMahon. She has recently branded herself through a pivot. So she is going to talk us through it. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you again to my wonderful Patreon members, who you're going to see in just a moment in the end credits. And I hope you'll join us next week. Bye.